Hi, co-creators. Welcome back to Liberatory Love. Today, I want to speak about the book Trust Your Foundation by Kees. And I'm going to describe this book by actually describing a first interaction with Connor and a little bit about my last decade. For many of you who already work with me or know me, you know that I use the word creatrix to describe myself. And this for me is a blend of the divinity, the spiritual, the timeless, and the human side of myself, and acknowledging that I am working with both sides of who I am and inviting others into that process. Well, about a decade ago, I began working with an organization called Design for America, and I learned a design process that was not about designing t-shirts or logos or physical things in this way, but it was about human-centered design, which was engaging human beings in looking at local challenges and engaging humans in the process of creating new conditions or new products with them as part of the process. Getting into design I was already in a place of questioning religion and spirituality, and it was getting into design that actually started to open up a little window in my mind that the world just was a certain way. I began to really experience people working together for the first time in a way that in group projects in school where, you just have one person do everything, you don't experience that synergy. I was beginning to experience synergy for the first time, interdisciplinary work, different backgrounds coming together to solve things and the power of that. And one of the key things with human-centered design was this question, how might we? Every single challenge, every single bit of research innovation centered on a question, how might we? And then we would look at a challenge and see what we could do to work on it. Now, I tell this to talk about how creativity and spirituality have intersected for me. Working in design work, really, this was at the same time when I was debating going to church, and I began to pull away a little and think, well, maybe, church was always used to help me feel grounded and feel safe and remember a time or look toward a time beyond this life to help keep me grounded. But maybe I don't need to be so centered on that to be grounded. Maybe I can just focus on the earth itself. So for the next decade, I went back and forth with studying enlightenment and coming in a more transcendent relationship with life and going more deeper and getting more into grounding and understanding what is here. Regardless, I never lost that question of how might we. And when I met Connor this year, I met him and his partner in work at a conference and met with the two of them, and I sent them a slide deck. At this point, after a decade of working on these questions, this slide deck for me, my how might we's have all to do with the economy and social change and how religion and spirituality will be integrated with society. And one of the comments that was made to me was, wow, you really ask a lot of how questions. There must be a better question than how. And at that time, this is relating to the book in just a moment. At the time, this statement really challenged me because I thought, of course, I ask about how questions. That's what I'm here to do. I'm a creatrix. I'm a creator. I'm looking at what is possible. I'm looking at what we can do. And I like to think about the how. I like to put the pieces together. I'm somewhere between an engineer, even though I'm much more artistic, more of a social engineer, looking at how can we work with the elements of life in a new way. So I love of course, the question how is there. I love the question how. Well, and at that time, I actually didn't have much of a replacement. We didn't stay centered on that. We had a lot of other things to talk about on that call. And so it wasn't until a little while later that I read Connor's book, Trust Your Foundation, that I was offered a replacement for that question. And not only was I offered a replacement for that question, or I should just say a foundation for that question, because the how doesn't need to go away. I am a creator. I am a creatrix. I am a designer. I don't need to lose that desire to ask how. But I was offered a foundation through the book Trust Your Foundation that actually shifted a dilemma that I've been experiencing for the last decade as someone moving between spirituality and deepening here on planet Earth. So Trust Your Foundation, the book, is about a 2.5 hour listen. And I recommend you just taking your time with it and letting yourself really come in touch with the things being spoken because They are being spoken in a way that is meant to engage with you and let you play with these thoughts. But the foundation is this line that trusting is my true nature is to trust. And what I absolutely love about this line, and what's even begun to shift in the months since reading this for me, is this book helps work with your rational mind that says, I have to rationally understand why I would trust that things would be okay, that things would work out, that there is purpose, that there is meaning, that there is God, that there is some type of universal structure or support. I need to rationally figure that out. And then when I rationally figure it out, then I will practice trust. And this book argues for this trust being something that is already known, and that when we are tapped into that state of trust, we can actually open to a life that's more playful. And we also can begin to see that there isn't a wrong choice. And this is so essential at a time when the stakes feel very high. There's a lot of urgent questions in our physical world. And at the same time, when we are approaching these questions from the state of this is all dependent on us as humans to navigate and grapple with and figure out, I believe we are working from an energy of mistrust. And that's when those how questions actually start to be the things that keep us up at night in a way that are more painful than life-giving. I won't sit here and say that all of your anxieties will be cured. I'll let Connor tell you that. But Trust Your Foundation is an invitation to consider that. It is an invitation to actually consider a foundation for that anxiety to find its rest, because invites your thinking cognitive mind to really be in surrender and in submission. Again, not the language maybe used in that book, but the language I would use, it allows this cognitive thinking mind to actually be in submission to the part of you that already knows that there is goodness, there is beauty, there is truth, there is purpose here, and whatever else your soul might know this as, and really start to live from that place. Let yourself be, and in doing so, let God grow. All of life is invitation. Trusting is the only how. And for me, after a decade of really centering the how questions and centering myself in the process of change on this planet right now, coming into a state of trust and allowing trust to be my first how has allowed me to have so much more fun with the questions of how. And the one more area that I'll add this in is as someone who works with people on mental health and on consciousness, even in this space where there is such a state of desperation, it can be extremely challenging to say, I'm going to trust, because the disruption is within your being. And as someone who has been practicing trusting here, this has also been very powerful to relinquish the I will wait to trust once I have the tools I need, but to actually start to say, I trust now and the tools will come to me. I trust now, and I will learn from the suffering. I trust now, and we will see where this is going. Something else is going on here. Is another theme from the book. If you have the chance, I highly encourage you to read this book before you start your new year or your next season, and take note, really see where you're starting now and what shifts when you allow trust to be at your foundation.